personally been using Verizon 5G home internet in my home for almost a year. So I wanted to share with you guys how that's been going. And when you find out how I've been using it, you might be surprised what this little $25 a month service can really do. When I built my house 6 years ago, there really was only one option for an internet provider. And while that provider was really good and reliable, they were also very, very expensive. So when Verizon 5G home internet came along, I thought maybe I should give it a try. And the deal ended up being pretty sweet. Because I was an earlier adopter to the service, I was able to lock in the $25 a month price for 10 years. So I figured I really didn't have much to lose. Now, as someone who has helped quite a few people in my area with their home internet service, I've gotten quite a bit of exposure to these 5G internet services. They are very attractive to a lot of different customers because the price. Many providers are very expensive nowadays, and so a lot of people have looked at these services. Now, that being said, I have very mixed reviews. It's been all over the place. I have some people where the service just works great. It is a no-brainer. And then I have others where despite our best efforts in moving the router around, we just can't make it work, even though technically their address qualifies for the service. So I definitely understand both sides of it. I hear a lot of people complain. Now, for me personally, I've been on the good side. I've had a very good experience with the service with very few issues. I do get unlimited data, which is really nice. That's something I actually had to pay $50 extra a month for with Cox. There's no line to get cut, so my outages have been almost non-existent. I consistently get 350 megabits per second speed-wise, which I know isn't gigabit. I know that's what a lot of you are thinking, but in all honesty, it's more than fast enough for streaming and doing music and gaming that we do in our house. And I actually provide internet to 3 other houses on my street, all done with this service, which I will get into and talk about later in the video. Now, the point I want to make here is this. The only way for you to know if Verizon 5G home internet is going to work at your house is to try out the service. Trust me on this. I've done installations with the same service on the same street, and one worked well and the other one didn't work worth a darn at all. Maybe we got a bad router, maybe it was the materials in the wall, maybe it was the angle their house was or how far they were from the tower, even though they were on the same street. 2 different experiences that I would have never guessed in a million years. Now, there's a lot of bad publicity when it comes to really any of the 5G home internet services out there. People love to blast it and say, it sucks, it was the worst thing ever. However, they are doing this blindly. The only way for you guys to know is to actually sign up for the service and try it at your house. Most of these will let you try it out for 30 days with no penalty. So you're really not out nothing. Not out anything, yeah. So that being said, if Verizon 5G is your first choice, like you get your fingers crossed and you're really hoping that this is going to be the service that works at your house, it may not be a bad idea to also find out who else is in your neighborhood and keep them in mind as a backup solution, because there are no guarantees here and you guys are kind of rolling the dice. Now, on this channel, we focus on home building tips and ways that you can build in a nice network in your new construction home. So as that relates to Verizon 5G home internet, or really any of the 5G home internet services out there, I wanted to share a couple things that I've run across in hopes that it'll help you out. All right, so first and foremost, when setting up a 5G home internet service like Verizon 5G, okay, it is best practices to try and plug that in different areas of your home to see which is going to give you the best speed, best performance, best signal. And so what that means is that there is a chance that this router will be sitting in a different location in your home than the rest of your other physical equipment, like your gateway, your switch, and your other network head-end equipment. So when building a house, It's best to sprinkle in some data jacks in a couple different rooms, maybe in different corners of the home, if you plan on using a 5G service like Verizon 5G. That way, if that router works great in one of those rooms, all you need to do is physically connect it into that data jack so it can connect down to the rest of your gear and run your internet. Because there is a chance that with using a service like this, it may not be with the rest of your equipment. Secondly, depending on which 5G service you pick and what equipment they use for a router, you may have the ability to put that router in what they refer to as bypass or bridge mode. Now, what that means is that when you have the device out of the box, it is more of a modem router combo. It's doing both functions. When you put it in bypass mode or bridge mode, it turns the router functionality off and really just treats it like a modem. It'll just pass through your traffic to the internet, which it'll do that anyway, but it's going to be doing some routing as part of that. In bridge mode, it just passes everything along to the ISP. There's no firewall, nothing. So if you plan on putting a ubiquity network with a router gateway, so you can do VLANs and a switch and some access points behind one of these 5G home internet routers, I would recommend putting it into bypass mode if you have the option. It'll just make things run cleaner. It allows the ubiquity gateway to be the only router on the network and just makes things run better. Now, I actually have some first-hand experience with ubiquity equipment, specifically a UDM Pro, not working correctly with my Verizon 5G home internet service. And I assume there's just some kind of network port compatibility issue. And the reason I know this is when I originally got the 5G service, I had it connected to a USG gateway and I had no problems. Everything worked perfect, no issues whatsoever. As soon as I moved my network into the UDM Pro, I started getting all sorts of drops in the network and latency and buffering on my TVs, which was kind of the dead giveaway that something was going on. And the only thing different from before was the fact that I was running this on a UDM Pro. So back in April, I actually even made a video and threw it out to you guys saying, hey, has anybody else experienced this? And if so, what was the fix? And you guys came through with flying colors. And the reoccurring thing that comes up over and over in the comments of that video was simply put the router into bridge mode and it'll solve the issue. The issue goes away. Now, sadly for me, because of how my network is set up, I am unable to put my Verizon 5G home internet router into bridge mode. It just won't work in my situation. You may recall from earlier in the video, I mentioned that 3 of my neighbors actually get their internet from me. So that means this Verizon 5G home internet that costs $25 a month is actually servicing internet for 4 houses at the same time. And because the network is set up the way it is, I am unable to put that router into bridge mode. I have to leave it as a router to be able to do the setup I have. Now, I know a lot of you are curious, so I'll go ahead and put a network diagram up so you guys can see how I have it. If you are considering the service, just understand, when it works well, it works really well. We, as a community, as this group of houses, have little to almost zero issues with the Verizon 5G home internet at all. To the point where there's even a new ISP moving into my neighborhood that provides fiber, and I've gone to my neighbors and said, what do you guys think? They're like, we're good. We don't mind it. Just leave it the way it is. And so it has just done a really great job. So if you guys are considering a service like this, or maybe you're considering moving to a service like this, my advice, pull the trigger, give it a try. There's just little to no risk in doing so, and you could come out ahead with a great internet provider at a very affordable cost. Do me a favor, don't listen to the naysayers, don't listen to the haters. Just because it didn't work for them doesn't mean it won't work for you. The only way for you really to know if this service is going to work is to try it out at your address and see how it goes. You might be pleasantly surprised. Now, I will say, if you already have an internet provider and you're looking to make this switch, I would advise you not to cancel your old service until you know the new service is going to work. Just unplug the old gear, set it to the side, introduce the Verizon or whatever service you're using into your network and try it out. You guys will know in a pretty short amount of time whether or not the service is going to work, and you do not want to create the headache for yourself of having to scramble and try and get your old service back or sign up for new internet service or whatever, because that just takes time, and it's just better to have that sitting over here as an insurance policy, and you can just plug it back in if it doesn't work. But if it ends up working, if this service, Verizon, ends up working great like it does in my house, you could have a $25 a month, $35 a month, $55 a month internet bill that checks off all the boxes, runs your network, and does not give you any problems. So you decide whether or not it's worth the risk.